Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alek, Koberna. That's Matt Morrison. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Sports, full swing of things. A lot of cancelizations, Matt. We're in the heart of bowl weekend again. Or bowl week, I should say. Everything. We got bowl games every day. College basketball pretty much every day, too. College basketball taking a huge hit right now from COVID, but NFL still got stuff pretty much every day this week. Obviously, Monday, Thursday. Or actually, no Thursday football this week. That is out the door. Rest of the season. It's just on Sundays and Mondays. So got 2 weeks down to go with that. Matt, I believe you're going to an NFL game this weekend. Got the Steelers versus the Browns, Heinz Field.
Monday night football.
Should be exciting, yeah. Big Ben's final game in Heinz Field. That'll be an epic atmosphere. We'll talk more about that on Friday. Let's go ahead and go straight into what we got from last night. Monday Night Football, Dolphins versus Saints, first ever start for Ian Book in the NFL, and he started it the way most quarterbacks do, throwing a pick six. Had the Sam Darnold treatment. Ball got tipped at the line. It is what it is, but, it was one of those moments you just look at and you go, well, welcome to the NFL, rookie.
Welcome to the NFL.
Good luck next time because you're in for a rough time, and that's just exactly what happened. So he was in for a rough night. He didn't do too bad. 2 interceptions, 12 of 20, 135 yards, no touchdowns. Yeah, that kind of hurts, and you'd like him to get another one. But you weren't expecting him to be the guy to walk out the door and go, hey, I'm going to lead you to a Super Bowl. This was, a replacement fifth-string option quarterback who was great at Notre Dame. But, he played in college, 2 years ago? He hasn't really done anything in this last year, so I wasn't surprised they brought in Ian Book and he didn't really do anything. This game really should have relied on Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram to run the football. They really couldn't do anything. Alvin Kamara,
13 carries,
yards. Yeah, I would have liked to see them run the football a little bit more, but that was just a matter of they just couldn't control the football very long, so they didn't really get any chance to run the ball consistently and build up that momentum. But this game, Matt, pretty awful. You took the Saints. You were dead wrong.
I know. I was hyping Ian Book, and I'm like, oh, no. When I first started watching it, I'm like, this isn't going to go very good. That tip pass, it was bad.
Yeah, and, it's not like Tua had a great day either. It was just not a great throwing football kind of day. It wasn't really even great football. Tua 19 of 26, 198 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And they didn't really run the football well either. It was just the fact that, Ian Book was throwing interceptions and the defense was scoring touchdowns in this game.
And this Miami defense was pretty shut down, too. They sacked Ian Book 8 times. So,
yeah,
8 times.
You can only put so much of this on Ian Book himself when you allow
that
8
goes
sacks
with the blocking
7 times. 7 penalties for 62 yards. 0 for 12 on third down is the biggest problem here. When you got Alvin Kamara as your running back, you can't tell me that you can make at least 1 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, but just handing him the football and going. It's scary how bad this Saints team is down right now. The fact that they go 0 for 12 on third down. At least Miami went 5 for 15. This just wasn't a good night all around. Just 10 first downs for the Saints in total. I look at this game and I just go, what went so wrong for New Orleans in this game that they were this bad? No team should play that bad through 4 quarters. Normally you can get lucky and get, 1 or 2 nice drives in there somewhere and actually get points out of it in the NFL. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, this is still the NFL, and there are plenty of great athletes and players who know what they're doing. It just doesn't seem like any of them play for the Saints.
Yeah, it's 20-3 isn't that bad, but it's 3.
It would have been worse if Miami had a better offense.
Yeah. 20 to. That's the best you can do, Miami. 20-3 over a rookie quarterback. A rookie quarterback. I think he's the most rookie quarterback than any of the rookie quarterbacks, honestly. This is his first start, and it's near the end of the season. It's not going to be, nobody was going to be like, oh, he's going to play like Drew Brees in his first start. No, nobody was thinking that at all. They were supposed to focus on the run game, and they didn't. And I mean, so everybody's, crapping on Book. I'm like, no. Really, the
You have
offensive
to crap
line.
on the offensive line.
Honestly, 8 times you let him get sacked? Come on, man. Come on,
Yeah,
man.
but one of the other big things I think you have to look at is Miami couldn't run the football either. So as much as we were talking about Kamara couldn't run and Book couldn't throw, obviously Tua didn't have a great day through the air. Jalen Waddle accounted for 92 of those 198 yards and the only touchdown. He was the only man that had, more than 3 receptions on this team. And you look at Duke Johnson and Philip Lindsay, and Myles Gaskins also got a few carries in this game. He had a big game earlier in the season, but they were only averaging 3 yards per carry. I mean, neither team could really do anything offensively in this football game, and it was really strange to see. I mean, as much as I just talked about the Saints, only 52 yards for Kamara, they were still only 3 yards behind in the rushing department behind Miami.
Yeah.
This game just freaking sucked, Matt.
I didn't watch
back
the whole
to Monday Night
game.
Football. We had a few in a row that were good, but we're back to crap apparently.
Yeah, I thought this one was going to be good, though. I thought it had potential, but I mean, maybe if it was like 20-10, maybe.
I think it would have made the score look a little bit better, and maybe if it was a passing touchdown or a big run from Kamara, we look at this a little differently. But this game was a pretty hot piece of garbage.
Yeah, it was.
A flaming pile of crap on turf.
Oh, the greatest crap show on turf. That's what. Oh, God.
All right, let's move along here.
College
football bowl preview. Obviously, still in the mix of things. We had the Nevada-Western Michigan game yesterday. Western Michigan laid the boom down on the Wolfpack. And Matt, you take home the first win here of the bowl week with that pick yesterday. We got a few more today. One already down. The Fenway Bowl is supposed to be played tomorrow. Has been canceled. The Military Bowl also has been canceled. We were talking about that one yesterday. But let's start this off with the Birmingham Bowl. The 11-2 Houston Cougars getting disrespected because they're taking on the 6-6 Auburn Tigers. They should have got so much of a better game. This one has to hurt. I mean, you finished second place and arguably the best of the group of 5 games, group of 5 conferences. And I mean, you got a team in the college football playoff and you lost by 2 touchdowns to them. And you're sitting here in the Birmingham Bowl taking on a team from Auburn instead of, probably a much bigger game. I'm not sure exactly what to give them, but definitely not the Birmingham Bowl. I mean, I would like to see this team in, Alamo Bowl or the Music City Bowl. I think would have been a fun one to give them. The Pinstripe Bowl.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That matters. I understand, they get a final week of the season bowl game, but still, I mean, the Birmingham Bowl against the team from Alabama, that doesn't sound like it's going to be, a little bit favorable in terms of who's showing up in the stands. But, this game today at noon, we are pre-recording, so none of this has happened for us yet. So, I mean, I think we have to look at this game, and Auburn, they're not very good. Bo Nix is transferring out, so we don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be.
Big B's transferring out. The running back is leaving as well. So
right. So, I mean, Auburn's going to be without a lot. And you saw Houston stick it right up there with Cincinnati for, a few quarters or at least a half of football. That first half, it was 13-14 going into halftime. Then the third quarter, Bearcats came out and played like Ohio State used to in the third quarter when Fickle was there, because Fickle's the head coach here. And you saw them score 3 touchdowns and pull away from that ball game. But this is a really good Houston team. They've shown that all season long. You got to watch out for Nathaniel Dell. I mean, in that game against Cincinnati, 152 yards and a touchdown. This Houston team really has not struggled this season. I mean, I'm going back to their losses. They lost to Texas Tech to start out the season, and they lost to Cincinnati in the championship. So this team is not bad. This is a very, very good football team. On the other hand, Auburn, they're in dire straits right now. Yeah, they had a strong finish to the season in the Iron Bowl, but that game is always close. And then you always see Auburn crap the bed next time out. I just don't have any confidence that this Auburn team is really going to have a quarterback.
They stink.
I mean, TJ Finley, is that really what we're going to be relying on here to win a football game. I mean, he played okay against Alabama, and I guess that's a good thing because, 17 to 26, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception against a really good defense in Alabama. Okay, I guess that you can look at that and go, all right, I'm fine with that. But, I mean, you've seen this team the 3 weeks leading up to Alabama game. They lost. They lost their final 4 games of the season. They were looking okay at one point. Not anymore. I mean, this is a bad Auburn team, and I have no problem picking Houston in this one. And I already got
me too. I got
Houston
too.
Houston
I don't have anything good to say about Auburn, and my grandma always used to say, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything. So I'm not going to say anything.
Okay. Well, that's good advice there from Grandma.
Yeah, it's my grandma.
All right. Well, moving on here in the show, Air Force Falcons versus the Louisville Cardinals. This one, the First Responder Bowl. Funny enough, Matt, I actually know somebody playing in this football game.
Really?
Yeah. Grew up with this guy, Luke Candro. He's an offensive lineman.
For what team?
For Louisville.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
I'm not sure they're going to have what it takes, though. I mean, this is a really good Air Force Falcons team. And, battle of the birds here. We got the Falcons versus the Cardinals. This Air Force team, they can score the football, man. The last 3 weeks alone, I mean, 35, 41, 48, and only one of those was an overtime against Nevada, who obviously just got the crap kicked out of them. But this is such a talented Air Force team. And you look at the way they run the football. In their final game of the season against UNLV, they did not throw the football once. They finished with 0 passing yards and 0 passing attempts. But they scored 48 points and rushed for 511 yards on 26 first downs, 5 of 10 from third down, 2 of 2 from fourth down, and they punted just one time with a time of possession of 40 minutes compared to just 19 for UNLV, who still found a way to score 2 touchdowns during that attack of the Air Force. This is a nonstop bombing attack from the Air Force, pun intended. They're just showing A-10s down the field and just everybody who's getting in their way. This is just an insane football team. I mean, you talk about their stats alone, and they can still throw the football. Zeke Daniels can launch that ball pretty deep, but you got to watch out. Brad Roberts, he's going to be touching the ball the most. But DeAndre Hughes, Dane Kinnaman, Brandon Lewis, Zeke Daniels, John Eldridge, Emmanuel Michael, everybody's running the football here. This is a touchdown by committee type offense, and this is old school smash mouth football. Someone's getting a hand on the ball, and 11 guys are punching the man across from them. That's what Air Force is doing.
Yeah.
And I just got to say, I love it, man.
I love Air Force.
Something special that Air Force put together this year. And how about our military football teams this year besides Navy? I mean, Army and Air Force putting together 2 fantastic seasons.
Yeah, and, Navy with the big upset, too. So that's kind of cool. But,
right.
Yeah, Air Force, some big wins. I mean, they beat, they beat a good Boise State team that's always tough to beat. Yeah, we talk about the UNLV team. They're just garbage. But, I mean, they lost to Army, too. They actually lost to Army 21-14. That was actually a pretty close and good game.
Yeah, this team can be stopped, obviously. 3 losses on the schedule. They're not invincible, but they are pretty darn good.
They're pretty good. And I don't see them losing this game. I got to go – I want to talk about their name here. They're Air Force and the Falcons, so they're both flying. Like, I don't get you had to go with that. Like, couldn't you do something completely different? Like, you just had to stick with the whole air and flight thing.
What do you mean, the Air Force Groundhogs?
Yeah, I'd go something completely different. The Air Force. I don't know, the Air Force Bears or something like. Go something completely different. You just had to stick with that, huh?
I'm just letting you dig yourself a hole here, Matt.
I know, but still, come on. You just had to stick with the whole flying concept. I mean, come on. I mean, all right, I get it, but it's easy to go with. Let's think of something more creative. Come on. I don't know. That's just my opinion. But I'm going Air Force in this game. I don't think Louisville has any chance.
I'm just letting you keep going down.
I'm picking Air Force, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. What do you got on Louisville? Anything?
Louisville, I like their quarterback. I mean, I think Cunningham, right? Cunningham.
Yeah, I believe he should still be the
Yeah,
quarterback.
yeah. I think he shows a
I
lot of
haven't heard anything about him
comparisons.
transferring, at least.
Oh, geez. Well, let me just check.
Yeah, no, it looks good to me. He should be Cunningham
Okay.
playing.
I think he shows a lot of comparisons to Lamar Jackson, and he fits in with the system. I mean, they're doing the same system they did with Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson just succeeded better, and you never know what can happen with this Cunningham guy. But I like what he can do, with the passing, and I also like their tight end. They got a tight end named Ford. That's pretty good. 530 receiving yards. So I like him too.
Well, this can be a really talented team, and I think you just have to go back 2 weeks to their win over Duke. Obviously, they struggled against Kentucky. They were far outmatched there. I mean, 52-21 loss, but right before that, they dominated Duke, 62-22. Cunningham had he was 18-25, 303 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 224 yards rushing on just 11 carries for 2 touchdowns. How often can you say somebody had 200-plus rushing yards on 11 carries, Matt?
No idea.
I don't know.
Cunningham
is a really special talent. I think he has plenty of room to develop, and he's going to need to, in these next few. Well, actually, I guess he doesn't have any time to. He's a senior, so this is pretty much his last chance unless he transferred out or if he's a redshirt. Yeah. Not sure exactly, or who even knows at this point because players have been granted so much extra eligibility and stuff. But this guy, he's really turned himself into a really special talent. I think he's in for a nice showing here against Air Force because that Air Force defense isn't always locked down, and that's the most concerning part of this team is whether or not the defense shows up because we know the offense is just going to bury you with time of possession, and they're going to hold that thing and make that defense on the other side exhausted. So I think Louisville's strategy is pretty much what it's always been. We're going to score quickly. We're going to let our weapons shine. And, once they get down to the end zone, they have to score because they're not going to get too many opportunities to get the offense out on the field with the way Air Force attacks. I think they're in for a strong night. I got a feeling this actually becomes a pretty high-scoring game in the 40s potentially for our winning squad. But I do think I have to go with Air Force in this football game. I like the Falcons, and if you're wondering why they are named the Falcons,
I actually got it up right here.
Yeah,
I'm reading it.
The mascot was selected by popular vote of the Academy's class in 1959, the first class to graduate from the Academy. They believed it best characterized the combat role of the Air Force. So there's your daily trivia.
There's actually a whole article about it called "Why a Falcon." Why did you pick that? So, I mean,
Matt, maybe you'll have to read it and send a formal request to change it to the Groundhogs.
Change it. What they'll probably? Oh, we'll change it, and they'll come out. We're the Hawks now.
Nah, I'll change it to the Warthog. Warthogs?
Yeah. That'd be
like
War Eagle.
No, jeez. All right, continuing to move along here in the podcast, the Liberty Bowl, Mississippi State, and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. This Texas Tech team, they surprised us in that final week. We didn't think they had it in them, but, I mean, they narrowly defeated Baylor Bears, who was 27-24. Donovan Smith had a pretty darn good game. 15-23, 262 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is another team that is going to find ways to run the football. They had 124 rushing yards, and that got split up between what looks like 7 guys here, including Donovan Smith, who had -4, but that's not important. But it's just a question of their defense, and I think that's been really the biggest problem all season long because you look, when this team loses games, they are getting beat handily. I mean, I don't think you have to go past week 4 of the season when they lost 70-35 to Texas, who was terrible all season long. And then they lose to TCU 52-31. They lost to Kansas State by 1, and they were starting to fix some things down in these final few weeks. But I mean, 52-21 against Oklahoma, 23-0 against, Oklahoma State. This team has problems defensively, and the offense just can't keep up. And I think that's a really big problem when you go up against this Ole Miss team that has a pretty good offense. I mean, we saw that beginning of the season. this team was scoring up there with the best of them. Obviously, it was the 26-22 win over Texas State that really, amplified this team into the limelight, as well as the win over NC State 24-10 that showed people, hey, this is a pretty good team. And everybody was, hyping them up, waiting. They beat A&M. They beat Kentucky. Alabama kills them. And they, lose an arrow 1 to Arkansas. And then the season kind of unraveled from there. And this team finishes with 7 wins and 5 losses. And I think people really have counted them out. And I think we're some of the guys that have really, counted this team out. But I don't think Texas Tech has the defense right now to stop this this Mississippi State offense, because I think this Mississippi State team is actually a decent football team. They have just struggled to put things together and finish off the season the way they would have liked. But I think with their schedule this season, 7-5 isn't a bad finish, especially with how tight some of those losses were. The 3 points to Arkansas, 10 points to Ole Miss. 2 games then. If they go the other way, we're looking at a 9-3 football team that's probably sitting in the game.
Memphis.
Right.
Memphis, that was a close game as well.
And they're just going to have to hope Will Rogers goes off, because they're going to need him to, and they're going to just need to put up a lot of points. And we know this team can when everything is put together. And that being said, I'm going to take Mississippi State in this game. I don't like Texas Tech.
Yeah, I'm going to go Mississippi State here. I like what you said. They've had the close games. The LSU was a close game. I said Memphis, and the other games that you mentioned too. They beat Auburn too. They beat that Auburn team. They only lost to Ole Miss by 10, and the Arkansas game, you mentioned that, and I got to go Mississippi State too. I think they're a solid team. Yeah, the Alabama game wasn't very good, but come on, it's Alabama. Now they slip up sometimes, but they're not going to do it all the time. But yeah, I'm going to go. I'll go the Bulldogs here.
All righty. Well, our next game, the Holiday Bowl, one of our first big games with 2 teams that probably can actually win it. UCLA and the NC State Wolfpack, 8-4 Bruins, 9-3 NC State. I like this game. This is probably our first game that we can actually say, well, these are 2 really good teams playing in this one. UCLA obviously didn't really live up to the hype this season. Sometimes you just can't afford it, but I was high on DTR and Zach Charbonnet to start out the season. They finished it with a 42-14 win over the 4-7 California Golden Bears. You saw this team score in their final 3 weeks: 44 against Colorado, 62 against USC, and then 42 again against Cal. This team can score the football. They just had problems on the other side of the ball, and then turnovers have plagued DTR in his entire career. And that's always going to be one of the biggest storylines when DTR is the quarterback, is how many interceptions is he going to throw? Because more than likely he is throwing one with the way this offense is designed. And that's kind of what worries you going through these weeks, is DTR is prone to interceptions. And if you're given interceptions to this fiery NC State defense, that defense turns a lot of points into offense. And Devin Leary of NC State against the Tar Heels put up 247 yards and 4 touchdowns on just 19 completions. So this team on the other side is really darn good at what they do. They know how to do it well. Really, their only loss in this final part of the season was the Wake Forest and then their weird fluke game against Miami of Florida. This was a really good NC State team all season long. They obviously
the Clemson game was
in the beginning of the season. Yeah, they beat Clemson, who, by the way, is ranked in the AP polls now in overtime. So this is a really good NC State team.
Yeah, I like this NC State team. I really do. That Clemson game was the big game. Clemson was still ranked number 9 at the time, and I remember bringing up all the hype from that game. Like, oh, NC State's going to beat them. They're going to get them, and they did. I think I picked them that week too. But they had a couple of slip-ups. The Wake game, you said the Miami game. I 1 point to Miami. Like, oh, man. But this could easily be an 11-win team. It could easily be an 11-win team, and maybe a higher bowl game, and maybe a New Year's Six bowl game if they didn't slip up against those teams.
We're talking about, maybe a higher bowl game or an 11-win team. We're talking about
playoff.
3 touchdowns in total across the entire season away from a perfect season for NC State. They were that close all season long to, pulling off a miracle of a season out of the ACC. Yeah. I mean, they would have been up there against Pitt in the ACC championship had they scored, one more touchdown against Wake. If they had a field goal against Miami, Florida, and 2 more touchdowns against Mississippi State, we're talking about this team as a potential contender for the college football playoff championship here in a couple more days down the line.
Right.
So, I mean, this NC State team to me is a really fantastic team that slipped up a few times. I'm taking the Wolfpack in it.
Oh, me too.
I like NC State in this game. As much as I like the other side, and I think they're really
now that's a
name.
Good. That's a mascot, man. That mascot they have, the Wolfpack. I like them.
Okay.
Great
analysis.
Cool.
Loves the mascot.
The mascot's sweet, man. Have you seen them? I mean, I like NC State too. They got a lot of good history with that team. Bill Cowher went to NC State, so I think he did. He did. So NC State, great team this year. I've talked about the big wins, a couple slip-up losses, but they're going to have enough to win this game. I gotta go NC State here, over UCLA. I like what UCLA has done though. They were hyped up. They dropped off a little bit. I like Charbonnet, DTR, inconsistent a little bit, but they still got them where they are. 8-4 is not a bad record at all, okay? And I like the coaching there as well. So, I mean, I think, Chip Kelly has turned this around. So, hats off to them, but I got to pick the Wolfpack here. And I say we're going to see good things from both of these teams in the future. Watch out for UCLA and NC State.
I think we're going to see good things out of them in this bowl game. I honestly think this is a really good game to play. I just think NC State has a little bit more consistency with their defense, and I think their quarterback is just a little bit better than DTR. And I've been high on DTR's entire last 2 seasons with him in UCLA, but he's turnover prone, and turnovers in games like this don't bode well for most teams.
Nope.
Next game up into Big Ten country we go. The Minnesota Golden Gophers and West Virginia. Matt, this one seems pretty simple. I got Minnesota. I'm taking Big Ten
me too.
Pretty much all the way through. And this one makes it pretty easy to pick as well because it's West Virginia, and West Virginia, it just ain't that good at football.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Since Will Grier, this team has been down in the dumps. Minnesota finished 2nd place in the Big Ten West. I mean, they were 1 game away from being in that Big Ten championship against that team up north. This was a very talented squad all season long for Minnesota. And, Tanner Morgan, as much as he's up and down, when they need him to show up, he does. And I think that's the one thing you have with this kind of leader. He shows up when you need him to. And the defense holds this team in every game that they play. And if Tanner Morgan is ready to show up and show out, this team is going to find ways to win. He's going to need to have a big game, and he's going to have to do more than what he's done this season. But keep in mind, Tanner Morgan, just 2 seasons ago, had 2 1,000-yard wide receivers. So he can throw the football. At the moment, it's more of a problem of he doesn't have anybody more than Brevin Spann-Ford to catch the football. Chris Altman-Bell's up and down, but they rely on Kai Thomas to run the football in Minnesota country. But I got the Golden Gophers in this one.
Me too. I'm rowing the boat as well. PJ Fleck was up there to win the Big Ten Coach of the Year. Obviously, I went to Mel Tucker, who deserves it, but PJ Fleck, his name should always be up in that conversation. What a great coach. He has turned this program around, kind of like what Franklin has done to Penn State, Fleck has done to Minnesota, in a way. So, he's made
Minnesota relevant. When was the last time before PJ Fleck that you really come, November, you were actually worried about playing Minnesota? I don't think that was a time in a while here for the Big Ten that you saw Minnesota on the schedule late in the season. You were like, that's our toughest test right there. That's a game we got circled in red because the Gophers are coming to town and it means war. I mean, do you have that now with PJ Fleck as their head coach? In West Virginia, they don't have war on their side. This was a pretty darn right poor team. A 6-point win to finish out the season over Kansas, an 8-point win against Texas on the 20th. Then they get blown out the week by 4 from Kansas State, get blown out by Oklahoma State. They somehow win against TCU and Iowa State, but this team lost 3 games before that. And they've already lost to a terrible team in the Big Ten, 24-20 to open out the season. So maybe it's a bit of revenge for West Virginia, but WVU is 2-4 on the road. I don't have confidence in them being able to win here against Minnesota, who played great on the road all season long away from home, 4-1 in that department. Both teams are running a 2-game win streak, so I guess we'll see who finishes out the strongest. But I just happen to think that it's going to be Minnesota finishing out the year. Plus, you always see how great Big Ten plays in bowl games, so you really have to pick them come bowl games, and we'll see if they're able to close it out.
Yep.
Well, college basketball timeout. We just got 3 games to go into. We were supposed to be a little bit heavier loaded on it. We would have had 6 games to talk about, but a few more of them have been canceled. So Duke versus Clemson is canceled. Cincinnati versus Houston has been canceled, and Arizona versus UCLA so far has been canceled. So
oh man, that Arizona
game
was good. Oh man. Oh.
I know. I mean, these were all games I was like, all right, we got stuff to talk about this week. I was loading up the schedule. It was looking very heavy for these next 3 days, and then everything getting canceled. I mean, the NHL game we were going to talk about has been canceled as well, but we have switched things up. We were going to be talking about the Blackhawks and the Blue Jackets, but that game was also canceled for tonight. And luckily, every game I got left so far at the moment, as of recording this, it's 11 a.m. currently. Every game on that we're talking about now is official for tonight. It's happening as of right now. So hopefully it stays that way.
Hopefully.
All right. That being said, college basketball time. LSU versus the Auburn Tigers. Matt, this game is going to be good. LSU undefeated. Auburn, 1-loss team. Both of these have strong arguments to be inside of the top 10 already. LSU sits at 16th. Auburn sits at 11th. Auburn has been given a 56.1% chance to win it via the matchup predictor of ESPN BPI. These teams are about dead even in every stat category. 1 or 2, numbers separate this team in pretty much every line. These 2 teams are about as even as it can be. They're 2 number 1 teams in the SEC. 2 highest record teams, despite the fact that Alabama pretty much ranks above them in a lot of different polls, not mine, and not the – well, actually, apparently, yes, also our Casual Sports one, which will be coming out tomorrow here on the podcast. But these are both really talented teams. LSU, in my opinion, is a top 10 team. They haven't done much, but they have won every game. And when you see a team undefeated, even with an easy schedule like them at this point in the season to start out 12-0, that is not an easy feat to do. And yeah, they don't have a major win under their belt, but I mean, they got a tough schedule coming up. They got the SEC, they got some Big 12 teams, and we've talked about the strength of the Big 12 all season long. I mean, this next week, for LSU is about as rough as they come. Auburn on Wednesday, next Tuesday is Kentucky, and then next Saturday is against Tennessee. So they have a rough start to the new year. And oh, mind that, they get about a week off of playing Florida and Arkansas before they have to go back to Alabama and Tennessee to, play 2 more games. So this team has fire coming up on their schedule. So I'm very interested to see how they handle it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, and, with Auburn, the whole probation thing, the whole suspension, Bruce Pearl thing, I mean, they're fighting off that right now. Only 1 loss. This team is fighting through everything they can right now. I like this Auburn team. I like this team in basketball, but not football. But LSU, man, LSU's always had that top team in basketball. They've always had they've had players like Javonte Smart. He's gone now. And they filled that void now. Smart was pretty good, with LSU. They've had some big runs in the March Madness, and I like the team they have put together this year as well. And this is going to be a good matchup. This is tomorrow at 7, right?
Yeah.
This is definitely a game that people will have to watch because this is a March feel right here. It is, if it doesn't get canceled. But
right. And Matt, I think you're forgetting a few of the biggest players to ever go through LSU, including
I know.
Shaq.
Shaq, I know. I'm talking about recent years. I don't want
Shaq, Bob Pettit. You want to go recent years? All right. Ben Simmons, you forgot about him.
I know. But I'm talking about like last year. I like Javonte Smart.
All right. All right. Well,
good.
last year, Javonte Smarty's on the Bucks now. Trendon Watford also came out at LSU last season. He's on the Blazers.
Yep.
I mean, this team last year sent 3 guys to the NBA. So Cam Thomas is he's on the Nets. And, this is a pretty good LSU team. You have to give them credit where credit's due in this one. I think they're a strong team. I think Auburn's a strong team. And, I mean, the only loss for Auburn right now is against UConn, who obviously always is very good in basketball. That is where they're strongest. And other than that, you've seen this team play really phenomenal, and that loss came in double overtime. So we have a chance to potentially be looking at 2 undefeated teams, both sitting at 12-0 if they pull that off in overtime. I think the schedule a little bit stronger for Auburn so far, the resume a little better, coming off the win against Murray State. And I think I have to take the Tigers in this one. Give me Auburn.
I'm going the Tigers too, but I'm going LSU Tigers.
Yeah, I just realized that after I said it. I was like, I'll take the Tigers. I'm Auburn. So there's that. Next game up on our list also tomorrow night, Seton Hall, the Pirates taking on Providence. I cannot wait for this matchup. The Friars versus the Pirates. 11-1, 9-1, 58% chance given to Providence right now. So I think they have to like that. They're number 1 in the Big East and a strong Big East this year, Matt. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I can't believe it. I mean, Providence, they've came out of nowhere. Honestly. And, Providence, 11-1. Seton Hall is good, too. I don't want to bash them at all, 9-1. But Seton Hall, where did they come from? Only lost to Virginia. They beat Wisconsin. They've beaten, Texas Tech. They've had good wins. They have. And, they beat UConn. They actually beat this UConn team. So this is a team to watch out for. This is a team that could be a Cinderella team, if not a top contender,
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to call them a Cinderella because of who they are, and I mean, it's Providence.
Yeah,
what are we really going to see Providence as a contender? Yeah. But I mean, if UConn was the team coming out of there, we would probably say UConn was a contender. So I think you have to give the same credit to either Seton Hall, Xavier, Providence, whoever comes out on top of the Big East. To me, isn't a Cinderella team at all. They are a contender this season with how strong they have been through the front half of the year.
They have. The first.
With that being said, though, I'm going to take the Friars in this one. I like Providence to win. As much as Seton Hall has had a strong season, they've had some problems with COVID canceling a bunch of games already. Obviously, 9-1. They've lost 2 games already on the season, but they do have that win against Ohio State. A close one against Ohio State. The Seton Hall team, they're good. So I don't think it's going to be an easy pushover, but I got Providence.
I got to go to the Friars, too. I like this team. And, Big East is full of pretty good teams. Even the Marquette, they're 8-5, they're 11th in the Big East. I consider them a decent team. They're filled, and that's it. They're 11th. So look at all the teams in front of them. So, watch out for the Big East. So.
Yeah, if anything, I mean, as much as we were talking, like Big 12 looks very strong, and they're probably going to run the March Madness tournament this season. Big East is probably going to challenge them for the second best conference right now. If I was to give out awards for best conferences in basketball, Big 12 1A, Big East 1B. They are that close right now, in my opinion, to how talented the Big 12 is. They obviously have teams that can win. You saw a 79-76 game with Seton Hall. I mean, Xavier's pulled off upsets. Obviously, Providence beat UConn. This is a very talented group of teams.
Very much so. Very much so. What do we got next here?
Here we go. Alabama versus Tennessee also tomorrow at 9 p.m. Sorry, my website that I had open had the game on the wrong day.
Oh, God.
It happens. A lot of websites. But Tennessee versus Alabama tomorrow. The Volunteers so far on the season, obviously a good one, 9-2. Alabama 9-3. They've really started to slip down, and it was that game against Davidson, man. We were talking about it last week, said there was a potential for an upset, and Davidson pulls it off 79-78, and we all just pretty much went, oh my God, did that really just happen? Because Alabama, you kind of had a feeling Davidson stood a chance, but not much of one. And then they pull off the upset, and you're like, is it March already? It's not. I mean, you couldn't really ask for a better scoring night from Alabama either. I mean, Shackelford had 20, Quinn had 13, Gurley had 9, Juwan Gary had 15. Everybody was helping out. They just couldn't win. And this just felt like a tournament basketball game where the underdog had come to dance and Cinderella was rolling through Steph Curry's old squad.
Yeah. I mean, this Alabama team, you look at their losses, they're to teams that honestly they should have beat. All right, Iona's pretty good. Iona's come up. They lost to Iona. They lost to Memphis, though, and Memphis beat them. Like 92-78, they lost to Memphis. And Memphis is, I mean, not a bad team, but I mean, they were like 4-3, 5-3. They're close, but and now they lose to Davidson, and they expect to go in and beat this Tennessee team, who's pretty good.
Coming off a win against Arizona, mind you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm losing a little bit of faith. They're still first in the SEC, but that might change pretty soon.
Matt, they're not first in the SEC.
It says
LSU
it right
and
here.
Auburn are.
Oh, why does this say first? ESPN's wrong then. It says it right here. All right.
Well,
I don't believe you.
This will be the first in-conference game, so technically no one's in first place of the SEC.
Oh, okay.
But if you look over all records, I mean, LSU is undefeated, Auburn's 11-1, and Alabama's currently, if you were to go off just records alone, is 7th right now in the SEC. Alabama's also 0-1 on the road. I think that's something to look at early on in the season, depending on how that goes. Obviously, this one a home game for them, so Tennessee's going to have to come in and play tough.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I am taking the Volunteers in this one. I think they're a better basketball team. They're coming off a win against Arizona. I think this is a very strong unit. I got faith they're going to get it done. So with that being said, I'm taking the Volunteers to beat them. And I got the Volunteers potentially moving back up into our top 10 next week on the show if they can pull off a strong week here. I mean, wins over Arizona and Alabama in the same week. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Tennessee as well. I mean, I like Kennedy Chandler. They have a Fulkerson. That dude can rebound. Watch out for him. He's good in the paint as well. So the Volunteers, their defense is pretty good too. They're gonna have to stop, Shackelford and among others. But I think the Volunteers will take this one here. I got to go with them.
All right, well, moving on. NBA preview tonight, 7:30. Washington Wizards 17-16 against the Miami Heat 21-13. This has to be one of the best matchups that we're having all season right now in the early going. Wizards are on the climb, Heat are on the climb, and obviously COVID's kind of messed things around a little bit with these two teams. But I like Miami in this one. I think they've been hot all season. Obviously mind the pun there, but I think there's just certain times of the year you got to roll with one team. It really feels like Miami is that team right now who, you could probably rely on to have the hot hand. I mean, 21-13 is, no slum of a record. Obviously 7-3 in their last 10. Wizards are 3-7 on the other hand on that mark. So I like Miami in this game. They played good at home all season, 11-4, and Wizards on the road 3-7. They obviously haven't been very good in this situation, so I'm rolling with stats here. Give me Miami.
Yeah, I'm going to go Miami here too. I like this Wizards team. I think they have potential, but Miami, I mean, they're one of those teams up there. But, got to go Miami here. Jimmy Buckets.
All right. NHL time here to wrap things out, Matthew. Vegas Golden Knights at the LA Kings. Not the original game we were going to be talking about, but we had to make a late night change or early morning change in our case here and go with this one. Vegas Golden Knights, LA Kings. LA 14-11-5. The Knights, obviously one of the best teams in the NHL with what they're doing right now. First place of the Pacific. They're 20-12. They're actually tied with the Ducks for first place, but you've seen the way this team can score.
Can you imagine saying
that? In their last 10. Yeah, they're coming off a loss, but I'm not concerned with this team at all in the slightest. And the Kings, they haven't been able to score very well. They've had good defense, and that's why they've been able to, amount a record with 14 wins on it already. But they can't score. They've scored 34 less goals so far than the Golden Knights on the season. That worries me when you're going up in this style of game against Las Vegas, because obviously Vegas has all the talent in the world. And the Kings, they've always been a very talented team. Obviously, this is Los Angeles. It's a capital of the sports world, at least in the last few seasons. In every sport, it seems, it's either running through Tampa or Los Angeles. And the NHL has really followed suit with that too. LA has been a good team, but obviously Golden Knights have been a little bit better since their introduction into the league. I think once again, Las Vegas prevails, and I got them winning this game. I think this actually turns out to be a little bit closer with the strength of that Kings defense, but Vegas is just going to be too much offensively.
Yeah, I've talked about this Vegas team all year. They're a good team. I mean, I'm going to go with them too. But what you just said a few moments ago, they're tied with the Ducks. Who would ever thought that the Anaheim Ducks would be tied for first place? Who would ever think that? They have came from nowhere. I like this Anaheim Ducks team, man. I know you do too. That is just unbelievable.
Quack.
I don't want
quack.
Let's go,
quack.
Mr. Ducksworth. Quack, 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 Mr. Ducksworth.
Hey,
watch out
we're on for another miracle here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, you got to watch out. We love the Ducks here on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how could we not like? I think every kid our age has to have liked the Ducks, or I guess every adult our age has to have liked the Ducks at some point in their lives. I mean, we all grew up if any sports fan, you grew up watching the Anaheim the Mighty Ducks movies, and now they're a professional team, and you just can't not like them. It's just that's your childhood playing on ice, and you actually, I mean, how many times can you say that you watched a movie growing up and you can actually root for the team in person? I mean, that's pretty cool, and it just has to give everyone our age a little bit of love when you see the Anaheim Ducks up there performing. Obviously, it's not, up there in St. Paul, Minnesota, but still.
But the Ducks are dropping their knuckle pucks, a couple of those,
Yeah,
but hats off to them. But
go Ducks.
Go Ducks, man.
You're gonna have to get an old Mighty Ducks jersey.
Oh, dude, they're on Amazon. They're cheap. But I gotta go Golden Knights here. I didn't want to get too far away, but I had to throw that out there because they have been so bad in the past decade. And they're finally coming around.
Worst team in the NHL for the last 10 years.
They're finally coming around and winning games. I like it. I do. So I had to give that shout out. But yeah, I gotta go Golden Knights. They are stacked as usual. So I gotta go with that.
Well, that is going to do it here for another day of the Casual Sports Podcast. Tuesday getting wrapped up. I have been Alek Koberna. That's Matt Morrison. More sports coming at you tomorrow. We got a big slate. Our college basketball top 10, 4 more bowl games, and then a load of basketball to finish out the week. Thursday will pretty much be all college football. So come on back then if you want football. Come on back tomorrow if you just want to see us. But that does it. I'm Alek. That's Matt. Power Hour up next here on YSNLive.com.